Hello guys, welcome to lesson 1-7, and in this lesson we will learn about literal equations and formulas. Here are your vocabularies for today. We have literal equation and formula. Now, a literal equation is an equation with two or more variables. You can rewrite the literal equation to isolate any one of the variables by using inverse operations like we have been doing when we solve for a variable with regular equations. It's the exact same thing. So this is called solving for a variable. Sometimes when we rewrite an equation, we end up by having to divide by a variable. So in that case, you want to go ahead and pretend and assume that that variable is not equal to 0, because if we divide anything by 0, it's undefined. So here's some example. We have x is equal to b minus c divided by a. Again, here we have to assume that a it does not equal to 0, because otherwise this whole equation here will be undefined. And then we have z is equal to 2/5 of x times y plus 3. Again, as you can see, we are dealing with two or more variables. We are no longer dealing with one variable. So when we are solving for literal equations, what we want to keep in mind is that we want to locate the variable that you are asked to solve, and then we want to identify the operation on this variable and the other in which they are applied, and then we want to go ahead and use inverse operations. Basically, we use the exact same technique like we would for solving a regular equation. Alright, so let's go ahead and do some examples. So here we have, let me switch to pen. So first thing we want to do here is to go ahead and locate x, since here they're asking us to solve for x. In your case, you might want to circle the variable or underline it just so we do not get confused and forget what we're doing. So here I put it in blue. We need to solve for x. Now, what are we doing to x? Alright, so we are adding y to x. So here we need to do the inverse operation in that case, which should be to subtract y. And then we have x is equal to negative y plus 15. Now, most of the time the kids are like, oh, what's the answer? What's the answer? That's it. We are done. That's why I love them. We are not dealing with numbers, so we don't have to worry about simplifying. This is as far as we can get. Okay, so let's do another one here. That we have p times q equal x, and here we have to solve for q. So first thing we want to do is to identify the q, locate where the q is, and what are we doing to the q. In this case, it's only one step. We are multiplying q by p. So again, we have to do the inverse, which is to divide q, is to go ahead and divide p on both sides. And then we have q is equal to x divided by p. Again, here we have to assume that p does not equal to 0. Alright, so now it's your turn. Go ahead and solve for t in this case. Alright, so here is the answer. So again, the first thing we want to do is to locate where the t is, and then what are we doing to the t? In this case, we are multiplying t by 2. So to get t by itself, all we have to do is divide 2 and get rid of the 2. Divide by 2 on both sides to get rid of the 2, so that t can be by itself, and this will be the final answer. Okay, so here is our second definition for today. We have formula. Again, we have all used them. We have a formula sheet, so we've seen them. So formula is an equation that states a relationship among quantities. So a formula again is a type of literal equations because we are dealing with variables. So in this case here we have the distance formula as an example, and we can see that to get the distance is equal to the rate times the time, where D is already isolated, but we can always rearrange this formula so that we can solve for R's and we can solve for T. And here is another example of a formula. The circumference of a circle is equal to 2 pi r, and the area of a triangle is equal to half of the base times height. Alright, so here let's go ahead and do some example. Formula. So what we want to do is to again make sure you underline your h because they want us to solve for h. So we want to go ahead and isolate the underline the h and then see what operation is being done on h and then do the opposite. So here we see that h is being multiplied by half of b. So what we want to do here is to go ahead and we could actually go ahead and get rid of the b first. So we could say we're going to divide by b on both sides. So we'll end up with the area divided by the base is equal to half of h. And now to get rid of this half, we can just go ahead and multiply by 2 over 1, which is the reciprocal. So the final answer will be 2 times a over b, what is equal to the height. Alright, so again what we did was the inverse. So we have to get rid of the b, which we did by dividing both sides by b, and we have to get rid of the half, which we did by multiplying by the another way that we can write this would be 2a over b is equal to h. Alright, we still have to multiply by 2. Alright, so remember that when we are dividing by a fraction, it is the same thing as multiplying by its reciprocal, which we just see here. Now let's go ahead and try this one. Here in this formula, they say to find a person's typing speed. They use this formula: S is equal to W minus 10 times E divided by M, where S is a speed in words per minute and W is the number of words typed, E is the number of errors, and M is the number of minutes typing. So here they want us to solve for E in this formula. Alright, so let's go ahead and solve it. Let me rewrite this so we can go ahead and solve it. So here we have S equal W minus 10E divided by M. So since they want E, so we want, alright, so here we want to make sure we underline E so we don't forget which variable we need to isolate. And then as we can see here, we are taking E, we are multiplying it by 10. We are doing W minus 10, then times E, and then divided by M. So here we have to do the opposite. So we have to multiply by M on both sides, and we end up with MS is equal to W minus 10 times E. Now the next thing to do, remember we want E by itself. So same thing as before, when we solve the equations, whatever is attached to the variable, we save it for last. So we have to get rid of the W first. So we have to subtract W on both sides. And here we are going to have MS minus W is equal to negative 10 times E. Let's take it on this side. And here it says this is multiplication, so we want to go ahead and divide by negative 10. And 10 cancel. And we have MS minus W over 10 over negative 10. Now we can actually rewrite this as we could put the negative right here. ms minus w over 10, like that, by putting the negative symbol right in between the bar, the fraction bar. Alright, it's not that bad. It's just dealing with a lot of letters that can be a little confusing. Alright, so go ahead and try this one, pause, and come back and get the answer. Alright, so here in this formula, we are solving for I. So we have to do f equal to I minus gt. And this one is pretty very straightforward. All we are doing to I is subtracting gt. So here we want to go ahead and add gt on both sides. And these will cancel each other out. And then here is I. And that's it. Alright, now it's getting a little bit more complicated. So here we need to solve for, so in this case we have two x's in this case. So we have f times x minus g times x. So in that case, we need to undo this. So we have to do the opposite of the distributive property. So here we have to factor out the x's. So we'll end up with x times f minus g. Again, x times f minus g. If we just go ahead and redistribute the x, we'll get f times x. And then redistribute this, we'll get minus g times x. Alright, so this is what this was. So because we don't want to have too many x's, because the whole purpose is to have one x equal to something, so we have to undo the distribution. So here we have to factor out the x, and here we end up with h. Now this is saying x times the quantity of f minus g. So here, since I'm multiplying x by f minus g, I have to divide x both sides now by x minus f minus g, so that way I can cancel these out. Again, this is multiplication, so to get rid of this, I need to go ahead and divide. So here's our x is equal to h divided by f minus g, and that's it. Alright, next one. So here we see we still need to solve for x, and here we have two x's. But here, before we can do anything, we need to distribute this negative 3. So we need to do negative 3 times x, which is negative 3x, and negative 3 times n, which is going to be negative 3n, is equal to x. Now let's go ahead and move the x's, those negative 3x's to be over there. So since this is negative 3x, we need to add 3x. And then we have negative 3n is equal to, again, this is a 1 in front of this x, so that would be 4x. And then since we want x by itself, so we have to divide by 4. And x is equal to negative 3n divided by 4. Okay, pretty simple. Alright, let's do a couple more complicated ones so we can wrap it up. I'm trying to go as slow as I can. So here they say to solve for the given variable. In this case, we are solving for c. So what you want to do here is to go ahead and underline the c. So first thing we have to get rid of is this 3ab. So since this is positive 3ab, so we subtract 3ab. Now let me rewrite this. Let me write it here. So here we have to subtract 3ab. Now, be very careful. These are not like terms. So you cannot say, oh, it's 12 minus 3. No, no, no. Remember, we talked about like terms. Those are ABs. This is just 12s. All right? So, no, no. So these cancel, and we end up with negative 2 times BC is equal to 12 minus 3 AB. Alright, once again, we are still solving for C. And who's with C over there? We have negative 2b is over here. So since this is all multiplication, to undo it, we have to divide by negative 2b, so we can get rid of the negative 2 times b. So we do the exact same thing over here, but I'm going to rewrite it below each one. So just so I can remember to simplify. So C will be left by itself. And then this can be simplified. 12 divided by negative 2 is negative 6 over B. Alright, my B is still at the bottom. Oops, I put an equal. This is supposed to be minus. Alright, so minus. Now, this one is negative 3 and a positive 2. The fractions cannot be reduced. Oh, I'm sorry. This is a negative 3 and a negative 2. The fractions cannot be reduced, cannot be simplified. However, negative divided by negative will give me a positive. And then in this case here, the b will cancel each other out. So I'm left with positive 3a divided by 2. Okay? Yeah, might want to rewrite that one. Okay, but we'll go over them in class. Okay, so over here on this one, we are again, I forgot what we were solving for here. Okay, yeah, we were solving for x in this case. So this is x minus 4 divided by y plus 2. So we want to go ahead and get rid of the division first by multiplying by y plus 2 and multiply by y plus 2. And these will cancel each other out. And we have x minus 4 is equal to, now here we have to distribute 5 times y is 5y, and then 5 times 2 is 10. And now we have to get rid of this negative 4, so we have to add 4 on both sides. Notice how I'm putting the 4 right below the 10 because those guys are like terms. So x will equal to 5y plus 14. Okay, and that's it. Hopefully this wasn't too bad. I try to go as slow as possible. I know it does take a little longer, but just so you guys can kind of understand the concept, we are just basically doing the exact same thing with equations, but now we just don't have a lot of numbers. We have a lot of letters. They're literal. Okay, alright, so that's it for today. Have a good one. Bye bye.